applause, etc. The clients also know when they did well, because we're not giving false praise. We're really trying to be a really good sports coach. This one, instead of teaching someone how to do a forehand in tennis or make a really great foul shot, we're teaching how to improve their brain functioning, how to work faster, better, smarter. Okay. This is one of our studies here that replicates what the original studies that NIMH funded. It shows the amount of processing speed it takes for our clients to improve in doing something. So we got almost 100 people in this study. We got more coming in, but it really shows that when they started out, they had a impairment of about 480 in the constant variation, and about 387 in the variable. So they're given a little computer task to do to respond to a stimulus, and they put these things down. And what they end up with, they're back into almost a normative range, which in this case is 276 for a constant one and 227 for a variable, which means they can really respond in the here and now if someone asks them a question and stuff. So they get back to what everyone else in the workplace, in the social setting, does. This kind of describes what a typical CET session is, a cognitive, social cognition session. So when we get started, we have one of the clients be in charge of the homework. And she or he will recognize people. You raise your hand in CT so that you don't, it's impulsive, you have to really stop and think and ask a question. These are the homework questions from the week before. So describe a recent situation in which you did not disagree with another person. Describe your perspective and their perspective. Many of our loved ones don't have the ability to understand another person's perspective. Even understand they have their own perspective they need to be aware of. So we have had a couple of lectures already on this. They then go around the room, and everybody, all 8 to 10, 12 clients, then have an opportunity to talk about that. We as coaches, as the therapists in CT, then challenge them, ask them additional questions, get them to think on their feet, to really make them sweat a little bit. Then we would do that takes about an hour to do that. Then we spend about 10 minutes on a psychoeducational talk. This one we go on foresightfulness. Then we do a word sort. We have 2 people get up in front of the rest of the group and pay attention and solve a word sort. But the rest of the group members aren't just sitting there twiddling their thumbs. They have to be able to give feedback, diplomatic feedback. Very important to give diplomatic feedback on how someone's doing. Because eventually they'll get up there and have to try and solve a similar problem. Okay? We all have to have the ability to give diplomatic feedback so that we don't be really critical of somebody when we come up another time. And we all know people who don't get very diplomatic feedback, coworkers, loved ones, spouses occasionally, ourselves occasionally, so we need to really work on that. And then we'll have a homework question for the next time. So this one I'm going to talk about foresightfulness. Tell about a time when you could have been more foresightful and how it could make the situation different, better, we hope. So socialization. Children are told what to do. Adults are expected to get it. A number of years ago, I was fortunate enough to have saved up enough time and money and went to Paris. So I had a really great time. My 16-year-old son really wanted to stay there. I wasn't too thrilled about that. Now, if my wife, who was older than him, said that she wanted to stay there, I would be much more understanding because she's an adult, she can handle that sort of stuff. My 16-year-old, not so much. But suppose your memory is impaired and it's hard to follow a conversation, much less to be part of it. Suppose your thought process is really slowed down and it takes extra effort to process and respond to what's happening to you. Suppose you can't trust your judgment. Then what happens? If adults, your clients don't get it, people walk away. When people walk away, socialization stops, learning stops, strange behaviors grow, and people become desocialized. Has anyone ever seen that? Seen someone walk away because someone who's acting kind of strange and stuff? Sometimes it's the client themselves who walk away because they can't handle the stressful situation for them. So what we're really trying to do is improve our clients' ability to socialize, to be with other people. So, when When desocialization happens, dysfunctional roles are established. I won't ask a question now. So what's the most common dysfunctional role that our clients or loved ones have? Not behavior, what's the most common role?
Sick person.
I'm sorry? Vagrant? Maybe, it's close.
Sick person.
A sick person. What kind of a sick person?
Crazy.
A mentally ill patient. That's the role in life. And oftentimes we begin to reinforce that. Oh yeah, John, you really have a hard time here. Let me take care of you. Let me do things for you. And then that dysfunctional behavior, that role becomes familiar, not always comfortable. And then there's no learning about the generalized other. But the real reason that we have these big brains here is not to make bows and arrows as we were evolving on the plains of the Serengeti. It was to learn about what others were thinking, who was having relationships with whom, why are there only stars above, why the rain now or not there. We use this brain to socialize and to do things. And if we don't use it, we lose it. This is a list of the topics that we have and we do in CET over the course of the 48 weeks. So we really start out teaching people how to take notes, how to be very basic, very understanding what's going on. And then we move on to having to learn more about the brain, and then how you think and how society functions. And then try, as we get towards the end, get all this together, get people to go out and finish CET and be independent in the world. CET is a one-time intervention. You go through CET, you graduate. About 95% of the people don't want to come back to CET, don't need to come back to CET. Some people do want to do that. We have a small, less rigorous post-CET program, but people go on, able to get jobs, have relationships, and go back to school. So again, it's a one-time intervention. So what we're really focused on is having people to understand the need to be cognitively flexible, to think outside the little boxes that they're on, to get away from the autopilot. Because as I said in that video you saw earlier, that stuff happens. You got to learn to deal with that, to expect it. I had a client who said, "Ray, I got this really great apartment. It's half a block from the library. Another block away is a really great grocery store. The bus line is just right down the street. There's a movie theater about a 5-minute walk away. This is a really great place. I'm set for life." 2 years later, the apartment building went condo. They got kicked out and had to go find something else. And they were really traumatized because they thought they were going to be there for life. They had this really great stuff. So people don't, want to do things. They really want to stay in a really nice, cozy environment. But the benefits of being flexible is that you can think of trying to do something new. A new restaurant, a new relationship, maybe a new job, a new way of thinking. So that's what we're trying to do for our clients. Now this is what is one of the talks that I give when I do my training in CT. It's called giving a motivational account. And this is something that you're free to use. There's no problem with this. No fees involved with this or anything. This is something you can learn how to do better and teach your loved ones how to do better. So motivational account is to kind of explain why you're doing something. So I had a situation a number of years ago. I had an office that was right across from a Starbucks. And it was in Cleveland, which usually doesn't get hot. It was like about 94 degrees, kind of like what it is here in DC. And I go over there and I've got my shirt and tie, sweater on, and my jacket on. It's 94 degrees. The other customers in Starbucks are running around in shorts and t-shirts and stuff. And I come in looking like this guy. Why is he wanting to, and I asked for a big cup of hot coffee. And he said, what's going on here? And I said, I have to explain to you. My landlord has got the temperature turned down to 56 degrees. I'm freezing my butt off in there. I need to have something to warm me up. That's giving a motivational kind of explanation of what's going on, why you need to change something. So our clients, our loved ones, don't often do that. They may be working someplace and they had a really great work record. They've been there 5 months, no problems. And one day they come in, they're 45 minutes late, they're all wet and stuff, and they say, bad day, let's get working. And what they should have done is say, what happened was that in a big thunderstorm we had last night, a lot of lightning, it hit my apartment building. I didn't have any power. I woke up late. I was running late, I went out to the bus stop, I was standing there, the bus came along, splashed me, I got soaked here. I had a really bad argument with my roommate, I really felt bad. Can I take another 15 minutes and kind of de-escalate and just calm down and be able to do that? So we teach our clients and loved ones to be able to do that. And how to do that, then you're much better in the long run. So when you're going to do something, when you're doing something a little strange, a little odd, you need to kind of give a little explanation of what's going on. So I'm saying who the audience is, what's the context, and give an explanation that is acceptable and credible. So that's the talk. Actually, when I give the talk, we much more elaborate, and I go around and kind of get some examples of that to the group members. The homework question would be to give an example, situation when it's important to give a motivational account, tell why it was important to give a motivational account, and could you give it a better one next time? Now, this is another example of a talk on idealism versus realism. Our clients tend to be very idealistic, very black and white. Having a kind of an idealism kind of gets us to be motivated, and sometimes they can come true. But the reality is that that's the way things are. The real roles in life, there's no actual book to explain everything. And it allows us to get things done, but having the reality kind of keeps us anchored. Now, I use this one because I had a talk with one of the trainers, one of the coaches rather, that we trained in Kalamazoo, Michigan. So he's telling me a story that this past February, he ran into one of his graduates from CET. And he was sitting drinking coffee and chatting with a friend, and then when he saw Randy, he said, ideally it would be 75 degrees and we'd be walking around in shorts and t-shirts, but realistically, it's near zero and I'm glad I have a warm coat and gloves. So there's an example of someone being able to see the humor in this, be able to remember what he was taught in CET, and able to progress on. This is somebody who they didn't think was going to make it through CET in the first 2 months. But he really got engaged and did that. See, the folks in Kalamazoo actually have set a record. They had 92% of their graduates graduate from CET. So this is an example of a word sort here. And I think we've got time to maybe do this particular one. So we'll do it as a group here. So what I want you to do is to give me 5 categories of 5 words each. So someone will call out some categories. Days of the week. Car parts. Names. Food. Okay, so you got car parts, days of the week, names, and food. That's 4 categories.
White bread. Word beginning with W.
Well, yeah. Now you got to mix them up there. Girls' names, boys' names, men and women's names. A little tricky, right? Life is a little tricky sometimes. I tricked you a little bit. Okay. Now give me 5 categories of 5 words each, because there's always more than one solution to a problem. Go ahead, days of the week. Wednesday's is one of the words. Words with W, one with T, one with M, S, F. Okay, that's a different way of solving that. So this is actually something we do about the 3rd or 4th week of our clients. They would get up and put on a whiteboard that's magnetized, move these words around, and process and work this through. And they're able to solve this. Sometimes it takes them longer than others, but they're able to do it. And then we have the clients then have a little sheet then, and they have to report back to give accurate and diplomatic feedback. Intellectually, emotionally, teamwork, response to the coach. So intellectually, did they understand the problem? Was there a way to solve the problem? Emotionally, were they calm? Were they overwhelmed? Did they have some fun in that? Teamwork. Was one person dominating the other? Were they able to take responsibility of each other? Were they supportive of each other? And the response to the coach. How much did the CT coach actually have to intervene and help them to solve the problem? So you see that everything we do with CT is interrelated. It really helps people to understand, and there's no real downtime. people have to pay attention in CET. You cannot hide in the CET group. This is a more complex one, which we won't solve today. Chance to look at it. What we're trying to do is to get the art dealer's wife to come to Paris, and you only have a 12-word email. It's a French computer, what can I say? So we're trying to get the art dealer to be able to take his wife's perspective and get her to come to Paris in a timely fashion. Again, we didn't have to give this diplomatic feedback. So my favorite quote from CET is, I like coming to CET because it treats me like I have a brain. Now, if you're a professional out there, when's the last time you had interaction with a client and the client said, you know, I really like it. You really treat me like I was a responsible adult, like I had a brain. Doesn't happen. Okay, CET best works with folks who are stable, but not fully recovered, have some major cognitive deficits, are able to read at the 5th grade level or higher. So if you can read the USA Today newspaper, you're fine in CET. Has some prior vocational or educational success, and at least somewhat interested in recovery, although CET is a really great program to work on aid motivation. People they want to do something better, but they really can't get things going. If we can get them involved and come to 3 or 4 CET groups, you're going to vote. So this is a CET for early onset schizophrenia, and getting good results. Not much change in processing speed because these are young folks, average age about 23, 24. But we did get some improvements in symptoms. But the best one, well, we'll get to that in a second. So what we really did is to improve processing speed and working memory so people can walk, really process information in real time, teach them how society works, teach them the other person's perspectives, their cultural norms, vocational studies, and how to deal with that. When I was in college in the summertime, I worked in a steel mill. I learned early on, I didn't go to the front of the food line in the cafeteria before Tony, because Tony had been there 22 years. He's also 6'3", about 240. But he was the kingman, so I learned how to do that. That was a social norm that I learned very early on. So what we're trying to do is teach clients how to interact wisely with each other and with society in general. And the big thing we're trying to do in CET is not so much to get people jobs, because I think we're getting close to that now in our economy, to keep people in the jobs they do get, and to help them progress onto something better when they're ready to do that. So here's a study that Dr. Eek did from the University of Pittsburgh that was on the vocational impacts of this. And if you kind of look on this, you see that in CET, people got work and kept work versus the folks who were in the EST wing of that. And then at the very bottom of that, you can see that the weekly earnings in CET was $208 versus about $70. So people were able to get and keep jobs, get paid better, have more hours, and more satisfaction in working. Now, oftentimes people say, well, yeah, you're really improving this, but does it help the agency or the county or the state's bottom dollar? Well, this slide shows how we're finding out that at least in a couple agencies, one in Kalamazoo and the one in Kentucky, significantly reduced the psychiatric bed days for the clients. These are a lot of clients that are in their ACT teams or PAC teams out there to really reducing the number of bed days. So not only did it save the trauma of the clients being rehospitalized for both the client and their families, but also save in tax dollars and getting people out, getting back to working again. Here are the agencies that we've trained already in doing this. And we've got about 20 sites we've already done training. We're doing about 11 sites now that we're currently training folks on, and we'll soon be starting another half a dozen sites within the next 6 months or so. We're in 11 states, trying to get out there. Dr. Duckworth calls me the Johnny Appleseed of CET, which I take as a great honor that I'm trying to plant these little seeds here.